Yo, it's time for another podcast with me. That was a shitty intro. Anyway, it's been about a week since my last one. This week there's lots to cover, dude. Oh my god, what a fucking weekend. Let's start with the biggest game of the weekend. I know I'm not talking about the El Clasico, surprisingly. It's Leicester Southampton. Leicester with the win. They are now 7 points clear with 6 games to go. They've wrapped up the title. It's theirs. There's no question about it. Mathematically, they need 4 wins to seal the title. But come on, Spurs have an incredibly tough run in. Arsenal are Arsenal. They're not gonna make it. Southampton have Leicester have won it. It's incredible. There's literally no way to describe it. The euphoria, the surprise, the unpredictability of it all. I think it'll only it'll only be able to be actually understood when it actually happens. So we can talk about it a lot right now. We can cover it. We can hypothesize, but the truth is, until it actually happens, which is in 6 weeks or in 3 weeks, effectively, we'll never really know what it means and what it's done to the game of football. This is unbelievable. They played it. I saw the game. I saw the highlights of the game. Great game. Southampton were on top. Leicester with a sucker punch like they've done all season. And then they didn't look like they were conceding at all after that. In fact, they looked more dangerous after that, which is, as we know, that's the way Leicester play. They like to play on the break. They're more effective on the break. They create most of their chances on the break. It just seems like the stars have aligned, and I think they've just won it. I don't know what, why, how. It's just happened. It's unbelievable stuff. We're lucky to witness this in our lives. I don't think there's been anything as big. Maybe I know in my life there's been nothing as big, but I think an argument that can be made is probably Denmark winning the Euros in 1992, I think that was. But this is unbelievable stuff. I just leave it at that. Spurs with a good point. They'd be disappointed because I watched the last 30 minutes of it, and they were on the ascendancy towards the end of it. Liverpool, they're a decent team this season. Spurs just look like a force, and it's unfortunate that it's unfortunate for them that they have had this season when Leicester have had this remarkable campaign. So, I don't think they're going to win the title, but they are definitely going to be moving up. If they make a few solid investments over the summer, they could be more of a competitive side in the upcoming season. So they'll be looking to build off of this. Harry Kane, oh my God, what a player! I've said this so many times, he is the complete striker. What a finish. It was absolutely unbelievable. That strength to turn away from Lovren, I think it was, and then the accuracy, the confidence to take it on without even looking up to see where the goal is. He just has this instinctive finishing ability that most strikers in the modern game or in today's game, we don't see too many strikers like this. Apart from Lewandowski or Suarez, like I've talked about them before. Kane's a player, and he's going places. He can take Spurs to a different level. Eriksen, of course, he's there. Dele Alli, I don't know. They look like a really good side. It's just incredible to see how this season has shaped up compared to last season, where it was pretty much a cakewalk for Chelsea. United grinded out a result. They needed it. City, after their dominant pummeling of Bournemouth, United needed to keep the pressure on. They did so. I still think that they're just a pain to watch. They're a bore. United are the side this season that literally brings out ADD in people that don't even have it because they're so boring. Like you watch their games, you'll have like 10 minutes of incredible adrenaline pumping football, and then the next like 60 minutes is boring, like sideways passing, no identity to it. And then again for like 5-10 minutes there'll be this pressure, this fast pumping kind of football. And it's I literally zoned out when I was watching the last 30 minutes of the game after we scored because there was nothing to it. It's like 30 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. It's just one of those. It's just annoying more than anything else. Other results in the Premier League though. Norwich, big win against Newcastle. They're, I think, 4 points ahead of Sunderland, who are in 18th place. It seems like the three teams that I want to get relegated are going to get relegated, which is Newcastle, Sunderland, and Villa. I mean, I don't really have any opinion on Villa. They've just had a shit season. It's unfortunate for them. But I want Norwich to stay up. I want Swansea to stay up. I want Bournemouth to stay up. And I think these three teams will make it. Swansea with an impressive comeback against, I think it was Stoke. They had a good result. They've looked to have found their fight back this season, or this second half of the season, so I'm glad to see that. Let's move on from the Premier League to the Serie A, because the Serie A this season is sort of like the Premier League in that you have one runaway leader, obviously Juventus, and compare that to Leicester. Mind blowing. But you have Juventus 6 points clear after Napoli lost this week. So they're 6 points clear up top, 6 games to go. They've obviously won it. And then you have Napoli number 2, kind of like the Spurs. And then you have 3, 4, 5, 6 even, you could argue, that are just in this dogfight for the remaining Champions League qualification and Europa League. And these 4 teams are Roma, Fiorentina, Inter, and AC. Inter had an unfortunate result. They lost at home, red card. There were a lot of red cards in the Serie A this week, which is crazy. Lazio had a red card against Roma, which they got crushed in that game. 4-1 they lost. Must be devastating for the fans. A lot of anger must be going through them. I don't think Lazio have a chance to make it even into the Europa League this season. Roma, on the other hand, after that mid-season slump and after re-engineering their side a little bit with Spalletti coming in instead of Garcia, seem to have found their flow again. I really like watching them, honestly. They've got an out-and-out striker in the form of Dzeko, but they've been playing with a false 9 in with Sharawi, Salah, Perotti, and Perotti just sort of switching into that role, which is great. And then they have players like Pjanic and Nainggolan. Nainggolan is a beast. He's like a steamroller in the midfield. He's such a good player. He can shoot. He's one of those like tough tackling players that some sides Arsenal need. And I don't know. Roma looked good. It was unfortunate for them to have that mid-season slump, but if they manage to keep this momentum going, maybe invest a little well over the summer, they could potentially challenge Juventus and Napoli. But, Serie A is always a foregone conclusion. It's always going to be Juve. Juventus are another different league. They play on their own planet. They're just too good. One thing I forgot to mention was Dimitri Payet's goal against, forget who they played this week, Crystal Palace. The free kick that this guy takes are just mind-blowing, man. he it's even hard to describe. It just, you have to watch. I'll put a link in the description. Just crazy. I think he's probably the best free kick taker out there today. Better than Ericsson, better than Messi, better than, I don't even know who else to compare it to. Pogba. Although Pogba is not much of it. Ronaldo's not even up there. He's like, he'll get one free kick out of 11 chances. Anyway, so now moving on finally to the El Clasico. Disappointment from me personally. I'm a Barca fan, always been one. But you have, objectively speaking, we were outplayed in the second half. Although I think it was more of our players underperforming than Madrid overperforming better. They just brought it and we didn't. Our front three weren't on song today, this past weekend when we played. Suarez missed a sitter. He's been missing some pretty easy chances the last few weeks, so I'm slightly worried. But the front three that we had, Messi was good. But he was solid. He wasn't anything spectacular. Neymar, I think, was probably the best of the front three. Our midfield was good. Defense was okay. I thought Alba could have done a bit more defensively speaking, and we just looked really open in the second half. On the counter, we just had like 6 players back, with the front three up there. It didn't seem, or 7 players back, sorry. It just didn't seem like we wanted to defend, and it seemed sort of that we were getting complacent in that there was this blind faith that we would get the ball back without putting in too much effort, and that has worked for us really well all season and including last season. But I think at some point you got to be a little more practical, especially when you're playing against a team that have ball playing talented players like Cruz and Modric and like James, and I mean James doesn't play, but Bale and all these players who can run and pass and make these quick passes in the ball in these tight situations. And if Barcelona players can do that, Madrid players can do that, and Atletico Madrid players can do that. And you gotta start looking at that as being the weakness in Barcelona. They look a little lackadaisical in defense because of the fact that they're so good at pressing up front. But if you manage to pass through that pressure in your own third, then you have an advantage in Barcelona's final third. So I think Madrid did that really well. I'm overall, I think the result doesn't really matter much because we're like 6 points clear. We're like, I think 7 points clear of Madrid. So the title's still wrapped up. I'm not too worried about it. I'm glad this result came when it did, because first of all, it puts an end to the whole pressure of extending that 39 match unbeaten run. So the pressure of that is gone, firstly. Secondly, any weaknesses or chinks in the armor that Madrid did exploit, Barcelona and Enrique, I know, will sort of focus on and work on, because Enrique's brought this thing into the side where it's where he's really focused on making Barcelona kind of practical, mixing that practical approach with the flowing tiki-taka that is Barcelona's footballing identity. So I have faith in Luis Enrique to make sure that any weaknesses that were exposed will be taken care of, and I'm not too worried. Tomorrow is the big Champions League game against Atletico. This tie does worry me because Atletico are such a good side. They demolished. Who did they play this? I think they played. I forget who they played, but it was Las Palmas. No. Anyway, they demolished whoever they played 5-1. They are a good, solid side. And it was Real Betis. Yeah, they destroyed Real Betis. They're a good, solid side. They will be able to take something out of off Barcelona. We've seen it in the past. anything's possible, but I think we will in the end over two legs get the better of them. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Tomorrow's the first game. It's in Madrid, so we'll wait and see. Apart from that, Germany, there was some really good games. And Bayern obviously won. I think they're again 6 points clear of Dortmund. Dortmund had a great game. Very, very overall fast-paced, thrilling game. They won. They ended up winning 3-2 against Werder Bremen. But it started. All the action was in the second half, with Dortmund taking the lead in the 54th, I think, and then Bremen striking back. And by the way, Bremen are in a relegation fight, and they took the lead 2-1 before Dortmund scored in the last 15-20 minutes, I think, to take the game 3-2. But that was a great game. Very, very like fast-flowing football, entertaining, a lot of passion. It was a good game to watch. But the game that I want to talk about is Mönchengladbach against Hertha Berlin, who are also challenging pretty well this season against for a Champions League spot. I think they're in fourth place right now, and they were completely crushed by Mönchengladbach. It was pretty crazy to see because it was 1-0 until about the 50th minute or something, but they just sort of imploded. The defense, the keeper and the defense just looked like they had a really awful game, and they ended up losing 5-0. But what I wanted to talk about was the players that Mönchengladbach have. If they can hold on to them, they can build a really solid side around them. This guy Mahmoud Daoud he's a German player, really young. I think he's like 21, 22. He plays for them. They just recently signed him this season. I think he was all over the place. He set up, I think, three goals, and he was all over the place. He was like Claudio Marchisio back in the day, just running all over the place, hounding people. He's good at passing. He wins the ball back. He was excellent to watch. I think he's been a standout performer this season for them, and overall, as he's been a rising star. It was good to see Hazard score. He scored 2 goals. Just Thorgan Hazard, by the way, the younger brother of Eden. And I think he's probably scored more goals than Eden has this season, which is crazy to think. But they've got a very young side with a lot of potential, and I think if there's a little bit of investment and a little bit of steel that the board shows in that they don't let go of their players for big money, I think they could build a solid side similar to the way Spurs are doing around these young players that they have. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye out on. But yeah, as a final wrap up, bunch of interesting games this week. We have the Champions League returning, the Europa League returning, Klopp going back to Germany against Dortmund, so that's going to be an interesting game to watch. I think Dortmund will take it. I've said this before. They're too good of a side, and Liverpool just don't have that edge yet. I think that Klopp will help them rediscover it, but I don't think it's going to happen against Dortmund. But we have Bayern, Benfica, Barcelona, Madrid, Wolfsburg, Real, and PSG, Man City, all happening this season this week in the Champions League. PSG, Man City is my tie to watch, and Barcelona, Madrid, of course. But these are the ties to watch. Keep an eye out on. I think PSG is going to take it overall over two legs. Man City just are too inconsistent for me. Europa League, there's some great action. Keep an eye out on that, and I will be sure to be back post all this week's results next week. I might just do a double header to wrap up the midweek results and then the weekend results. So keep an eye out. I'll be back. Thanks for listening and subscribe. Cheers, guys.